I think that, I mean, it's a very complicated issue, of course, and there are no quick fixes or quick solutions, but one needs to distinguish between poverty within a country and poverty between countries internationally. Now, within a country like South Africa, you can look at the way in which poverty has been caused by a process of conquest, and in South Africa itself, the migrant labor system can be shown over 100 years how the very process that was creating wealth in South Africa simultaneously created poverty. I can go into that in more detail. If you look at poverty between countries, like let's say Zambia and Norway, then you've got to look at global history, you've got the history is enormously important, and the role of institutions and so on. And that is a much bigger issue which people are wrestling with in books like Why Nations Fail and so on, and we're looking at all of that. Well, again, when one's looking at feasible solutions, I think one needs to distinguish on poverty within a country and poverty between countries, if I can make that distinction at an international level. Now, when you're looking at within countries, poverty, you've got to ask yourselves, how do you enable poor people to use and increase the assets, the productive assets that they have? Now, those assets in the first instance are themselves, human capital, education, all of that training, land, and it's really putting assets in the hands of the poor so that they themselves can use them effectively and enabling them to have access to markets and so on. That is fundamental. When you look between countries, one's really got to think about how do we move, in my view, from aid to trade. If you simply pour lots of money in, you're giving it to government bureaucrats, it gets corrupted, gets misused and so on. What you're needing to do is to empower poor people themselves to use their own skills and their own energy, and that is really through trade. So a country like Norway should be thinking very carefully about how to increase the demand for goods and services from e.g. Zambia, and to help Zambia in that way through trade. I think that these international goals do serve a function, although the children has a lot of hot air as well and politicians make use of it. But it seems to me that goals like making sure that people all have clean drinking water, or you're dealing with health and so on, is a process of global conscientization, which is very important. That's number one. The second issue is that it seems to me we've got to be putting increasing focus on global fragility. And this leads us to the whole issue of the environment and so on. And so one is requiring the focus on global poverty and so on tied up with the environment, so that people are thinking much harder about global fragility, which is as true in America as it is in Southern Africa, and it's a global issue.